You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeromy.
I'm Vinz.
And this is your Geek Fix. So, what you been doing lately?
I've been reading comics, actually.
Have you?
Yeah.
You've been reading comics? That's pretty. I've been watching a lot of shows. I've been binging, I should say, shows. There's plenty of good ones to watch right now. Have you seen the one I actually watched most of last night because I got a couple of episodes behind, which comics wise, it was actually the one I'm least aware of before that, which was Moon Knight.
Yeah.
You've been watching that?
Yeah, well, I same as you probably. I have some episodes still to watch, but I
don't want to spoil it.
But
what do you think of it?
It's great. I think it's the actor Oscar Isaac. I think he really got he really got to show how his acting chops basically compared to being Poe Dameron in Star Wars and seeing him on screen for this. It's a world of difference. Yeah.
He's really flexible. You know, he got in trouble a little bit online recently. I shouldn't say in trouble. It was such a lame thing. Big deal was made out of the fact that he, he's contracted with, of course, Star Wars, Disney, Marvel. He went to Universal Studios and just took pictures of himself having fun at Universal Studios. And I guess a lot of fans kind of came out against him on it, but kind of a silly thing. But at the same time, he's a great actor. Yeah. I mean, really, two pretty diverse characters. He also actually plays another one that I don't want to give away if you haven't seen it yet, but so he gets even more variable inside that show. But yeah, that was one that I never read the comic for it, and I didn't really know much about it beforehand. And I think that was actually a good thing because I didn't go into it with any expectations, which I think the one thing I've heard when it comes to some of the Marvel shows that have been released lately is that some people are disappointed because I think some people are just get so used to what they want it to be. Yeah. Based on what they know and the history and stuff. What are some of your favorite comics? Like what's the big ones
one of them is the I believe it's also called in English the Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man. So there are multiple. Oh, yeah. There are multiple Spider-Man comics lines, and you have Web of Spider-Man, and you have Peter Parker, and then you have the Amazing Spider-Man, and so all that kind of stuff. But especially the Peter Parker ones, I enjoy the most. Yeah,
that's where they actually explored Peter Parker's death for the first time. I remember when Peter Parker died. Yeah, and for then also, and it was brutal. It wasn't even like, it was kind of just, that's it. Yep. He's died multiple times actually, inside the comics. Yeah. I guess pretty much that's kind of a running theme. I started off with DC was kind of where I was when I was a kid. Was definitely the Superman side of things, and I wanted to be Superman in the same way that like little girls wanted to be Elsa. Like I spent every day inside my Superman outfit that I got for Halloween, I think one year. And of course we're talking the thin fabric that tears and stuff like that. So eventually my parents decided they were going to throw out the outfit so I couldn't find it again. And then I wouldn't wear it around the neighborhood because it literally ran around the neighborhood in
rags.
But what they forgot was, they forgot that back then we also had underoos. Right, and I had Superman underoos. So I just ran around the neighborhood in those and running up to the neighbors, like staring at them, and with my laser vision. Yeah. Or blowing at them. So a lot of people moved that year, but anyway, so I mean, that's the side that I started on. And then it seemed like DC kind of went dark. And, they had the deaths and Superman. Superman stuff's gotten so weird that I'm no longer into Superman. But I then switching over to Marvel. The thing I've always liked about Marvel is that it's been kind of light, more comedic. It's had, Iron Man's my favorite. But at the same time, it used to be X-Men back in the day when I had, as far as comics go, I used to have I had a first volume 1, print 1 of one of the X-Men. Yeah, actually it was the X-Men meet the Fantastic Four. I had that one. That was the first print. And so anyway, but yeah, that's what I used to be into. And then I got into Iron Man. I think that, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, kind of like with the Moon Knight thing, is I think that DC and Marvel are kind of crossing over now, because it seems like DC is starting to go more on the comedic end and the lighter end, and maybe they're shortening things up. I mean, with the exception of the new Batman movie. Yeah. But, but on the flip side, you got Marvel is now like Moon Knight. The intention was, let's make something that has more language in it, that has, it's a little harsher rating, and moving into more of a dark era. Yeah. It's that, I mean, do you feel that too? Are you seeing that?
Well, I think they kind of have to, because now the people growing up on Iron Man are also getting more into puberty, I guess. Looking for the edge, kind of. So
yeah, that's true.
So there is probably some marketing person who has that timeline plotted out, saying, okay, now the people who grew up on Iron Man or think Iron Man is the classic and now goes to the MCU, they're probably in the sweet spot for that kind of stuff. Because, in the 90s, there was stuff like The Crow and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all that kind of stuff.
Those are dark.
Yeah, those were pretty dark. Yeah, so I think that's a bit of a resurgence now. You had the Happy-Go-Lucky Guardians of the Galaxy, which also, I think, in the comics gets pretty dark. But, so I think it's nice to see that. You also see it with the Spider-Man movie. There is a moment where Peter Parker from the Marvel Universe gets sucked into the more gritty and darker comics version of being Peter Parker and all that entails. I really like that, and also the fact that you see some a glimpse into the lives of how Peter Parker can be in different situations without being too spoilery.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, we had the Multiverse movie that came out. Yeah. Now I think it's been a couple of years, but and then more recently, and of course that's Sony, because they purchased Spider-Man back in the day and stuff. They still kind of, this whole, they've been working together with Disney in putting out some of the Marvel movies, handoffs and things. But at the same time, more recently, they put out something that I liked. It kind of had mixed reviews. So you had the Hulk, for example. They had one episode where the Hulk gets killed as well as everybody else.
Yeah, the What If series
by Ant-Man. The What If series. Yeah, and which, by the way, I think if you're going to see the new Doctor Strange movie, I think almost you have to have seen that, because I feel like it actually does play into the whole MCU storyline right now. Yeah. But within that What If series, I think some people were bothered by it and they didn't like it. But the truth is, actually, we've seen that before. If you read the comics, like that, all those scenarios, we got to see played out in long versions. Like they had a whole series for each of those.
Yeah, they had the What If series, actually. Yeah.
And like Spider-Man becoming. We've had multiple mutant series, but I mean, like same time, I remember Spider-Man becoming an actual Spider-Man. Or it's actual Spider.
Yeah, Man Spider or something.
Man Spider. Yeah. I mean, so there's some things that I think are pretty cool that are coming out that are kind of bringing it back to. I mean, the downside to the Avengers was it really didn't follow the exact storyline that we saw in some of the comics. No. Or it was a more modernized version, but at the same time, I think we are kind of moving into some of those. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, go ahead.
they do touch upon it in the Spider-Man movie, that with all the Spider-Men in there. The Peter Parker from the MCU says, well, we have the technology, we can fix everything, and I'm part of the Avengers, I have friends, and everybody's like, really?
Right.
Yeah. So so he kind of acknowledges the fact that we're in the happy-go-lucky universe compared to what you're going through. So I really like that scene.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the dark stuff is going to be kind of fun. And the new Doctor Strange movie, which was originally going to be completely Sam Raimi, typical Sam Raimi movie, right? Like Evil Dead series kind of thing. Which means that also they'd have to find some way to have Bruce Campbell in there, but
and the car, right?
Yeah, and the car, the blue car, yeah. It appears in every one of his movies. It's even in Wizard of Oz that he did. He
said the Western they actually had to build a whole thing around it to have it on set or something. That's the rumor.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I got the opportunity. So we talked last time about the fact that I'm kind of in a rural area.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one point where I thought, I can't stand being here any longer. Like I was kind of depressed one day, and I was walking along, and I was teaching at a university, and I was walking down the hall, and I saw a poster, and it turned out, and it said that Bruce Campbell was coming to speak at the university.
Oh, wow.
In this weird small town. So I said, so I called up the people that were in charge of it. I said, is there any way I can be involved in this? And so I got to spend 2 days with Bruce Campbell.
Oh, nice.
And got a bunch of stuff signed by him and things like that. But
nice.
And he naturally, he shares all those backstories and things about, he's the one that got to be the one that names Spider-Man in the first release of Spider-Man movies. But anyway. I mean, I think it has its upsides, but on the downside, I question the ability to watch some of these or continue to do them with my kids, as far as the family aspect, it kind of cuts down on that, or being able to introduce them to something, for that first time. But I don't know. Well, that was cool. Yeah,
you can still give them the toys and all that.
That's true. Yeah. Do an edited version, the airline version.
Yeah. I remember, back in the 80s, 90s. Then I knew about Alien, I knew about RoboCop, and there were toys for us for that. Yeah. But I by no means was allowed to watch RoboCop when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's true. I also remember my parents and other like aunts and uncles and things were in the basement watching Alien while the kids all watched some movie upstairs.
Yeah,
and I remember trying to sneak down to hear, because we knew it was supposed to be a scary movie and didn't know much about what it was. And that stands out in my mind. I knew plenty about Alien before I could watch it technically.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know. Yeah. My son got introduced to Spider-Man during the first series that ran.
Yeah.
And so when he was young, and so being able to see the newest Spider-Man that came out was pretty cool. That they did that so well. Yeah. Again, that was more Sony than it was Disney or Marvel, but still, I thought that was very well done.
Yeah.
And it really opens things up for where it's going to go from here. But yeah, do you think they'll keep going with that storyline? Nobody knows who he is now.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was nice to see, and it also was pretty much on par with the comics. I mean, the biggest struggle with Peter Parker is his second life, of course. And what I liked about that is that, for example, he doesn't always get the girl. By no means does Peter Parker gets the girl whenever he wants to, and for valid reasons, because I think it was the animated series or one of the comics where he just leaves his wedding because something big is happening with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And then Mary Jane says, I can't do this anymore, Peter, because, it's not a normal life for me, and I do want to have a normal life. So I think that really appealed to me with Spider-Man as well. And now you see, basically after the words from Uncle Ben, which this Peter didn't have, I believe, were spoken, he immediately got dragged back into Peter Parker verse, where every Peter Parker suffers after that. So I really like that. Yeah, really appreciate that.
I thought that was pretty. It was cleverly done, and they even played on the things that people didn't like in the first two sets of movies. they played off of that in really positive and funny ways. And so, I think that was also, I thought that was pretty good too. I mean, this is a good way to be able to kind of make up for things.
Yeah, and also the fact that Tobey Maguire, they actually mentioned, he's quite a lot older in real life.
Yeah.
And I mean, that also...
He doesn't look it, though.
No.
I didn't think he looked it.
So maybe there's that magic Disney de-aging going on.
Maybe.
But I don't think so.
I don't know. No. I think he just kind of naturally looks that way still. But yeah,
bit of a boyish
face.
That's
funny. Yeah, that was pretty good. But I think I hope they keep going in that direction of trying to tie in the older episodes with some of the newer ones. But,
I did miss Miles Morales into the whole mix. Because I really enjoyed him in the video game. There were comics. There were comics from him, but I really enjoyed the way he was written in as a sort of backup for Peter Parker and becoming Spider-Man. He was in the Spider-Verse, right? Also the movie.
And there's another Spider-Verse coming out.
All right.
Pretty soon. India's Bernardo's. I think she's involved in that. I don't know. I'll have to ask her when they're on next.
But that would be awesome
next week in this.
Maybe. But it would be awesome to see that in live action as well, because that's a really fun Spider-Man also to see.
Yeah, I don't know if I think part of what they played off of in that show, they actually used the animation style to try and tell some of the story. Which having been involved in animation and rendering and things like that, when I saw that movie, I didn't know it was intentional. So that frame rate changing really bugged the crap out of me. But at the same time, I mean, it had a purpose. So, when he's kind of still going from being the teenage kid and fumbling around things, he has a slower frame rate. And even when it's the older Peter Parker with him, they animated them at two different frame rates.
Oh, really?
So you got one that's smoothly,
one that's smoothly
driven, and that could, and just swings right by, whereas his is still kind of juddery and things like that. And so, I mean, they had a purpose behind it, and the styles that they threw in there for the Spider-Verse, particularly, that it had purpose. And I think with where they're going with the next movie, it's also probably going to have the same purpose, because it's still pulling for the fact that you have two universes that have to kind of re-communicate and work together. If they could bring him into, I mean, there's plenty of room to do that now. So we've got Ironheart is going to be coming out.
Okay.
We don't know when. So again, we got a 15-year-old African-American female who's going to be the new, essentially, Iron Man takes over Stark Industries to a certain extent, played by Riri Williams. But the rumor is that I've heard is that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be the AI.
Oh, wow.
That essentially helps her to be able to adjust. So it's Iron Man is the one that helps to teach her how to step into that role. Nice. And I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's, in my mind, he is Iron Man. I don't think you could really
because Jarvis is too busy chasing after the Scarlet Witch.
That's right. Yeah. And that's another thing. So we're going to see where that goes. Yeah. I am curious, so what happened with, what's the other version of Jarvis, the one that showed up in that show?
The White Vision that became
sentient. White Vision. Yeah. That's it. White Vision. Yeah. What's going on with him at this point?
I don't know. I actually fell asleep during the end.
Did you?
I still have to
getting too slow at that point.
I had to rewatch that scene again because they kind of skipped over it, I think, or I skipped over it, the fact that there was a White Vision at all. I really didn't. I liked WandaVision for what it was, that they liked it was the aha moment, like, okay, this is happening, but after that, I mean, and that's also funny because they mentioned it in the new Doctor Strange, at least from the trailer. Yeah, it's like
it's built upon that. Yeah. I mean, so did you read the comic part of that? I mean, are you aware of the? I mean, so her kids are a big part of where the storyline goes in the comics after this.
Okay.
and the bad guy that's involved, or bad guys that are involved. I mean, so she's really, even in the comics, this piece is what's, without giving away too much, I'm trying not to spoil things, but I mean, basically things go bad because of everything that happened on the WandaVision.
Okay.
There, as far as that version.
Yeah.
So
because I mean, as a character, she mentions that if Doctor Strange breaks the universe, he's seen as a hero, and if she does it, she's the bad guy, really.
Right.
Yeah, and that line is in the trailer, so that's something that they.
Do you feel like it's? I mean, it's pretty ingenious because they're forcing everyone to have to watch everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you also watched, like, now that I think about it, every single series that we just talked about, as well as some others,
like Loki, for example,
and every one of them. Loki was the one I was thinking about. Is here they ended the first season. They ended with the fact that they broke. Also,
they made the multiverse again.
Yeah. And and then same thing with WandaVision. We got a play in there. Yeah. We've got the Doctor Strange and the Spider-Man, and then coming over to the next Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and the What If Doctor Strange as well.
Yeah. Yep. And what if is it? I tell you, I think What If really is supposed to be a part of this storyline.
Yeah, it is. I believe there's
no way to
the evil
separate
quote. The when he says it was necessary or something. I believe that was the one from the What If series.
Yeah, the Doctor Strange that's in there, the bad one.
Yeah, the bad one.
Or bad. It's all questionable.
The morally
point, right?
challenged one.
Yeah. He's deficient.
Yeah.
At the same time, it looks pretty darn similar to the one that's in the new movie. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we're very connected at this point.
That's a smart move.
But if you're not staying on top of things, you're not going to be able to follow it.
Yeah.
But what does that mean for the people that just now are starting in, though, that have not watched any show up to this point?
I saw a meme on Twitter of this guy saying, I'm going to Doctor Strange alone because there's no way I'm going to explain the Marvel Universe to my girlfriend during the movie.
I know, right? I mean, that's the thing. But who knows? Maybe they'll pull it off somehow. I mean, maybe they'll somehow fresh start it in such a way that somebody could come in, just right off the bat. But I mean, it's kind of like, I took my wife also. I did talk her into going to Ant-Man.
Okay. Yeah.
The second one. And, and if you remember, Ant-Man ends with them because it wasn't in chronological order. So Ant-Man came out. The second one came out after everyone's been snapped.
Yeah.
And so the first half of it takes place before that. And then the scene that occurs during the credits, the after credits scene, they get snapped.
Yeah.
And there's no explanation. They just suddenly turn into dust.
And he's stuck in
she had no clue what was going on at the point. She was like, what? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. That's difficult.
Yeah. I don't know. Everything. I think this is kind of it's a fun time, and it's if you're a Marvel person, it's a good time to be into that.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think at the same time, it's also probably a confusing one. If you're wanting to try and join in, you got to go binge watch some old stuff.
Yeah, or watch some recap somewhere. And I think they're gonna have to do one after the. Yeah, well, I expected them to do one after phase one. To be honest.
Yeah, you'd think somebody ought to put together. There probably is a channel out there where they summarize everything. But at the same time, I think if somebody's just jumping into Marvel, I still think probably Iron Man's a good step across because it seems real world initially.
Yeah, it doesn't blow up the universe in your face.
No, it's not too superhero-y right off the bat. Yeah. And it kind of walks you. It's a soft walk to a lot of the other movies.
Skip the Hulk.
Yeah. I grew up back in the day, the TV series.
Oh wow,
Hulk.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I have DVDs of them.
Do you really?
Yeah.
The ending was always him walking away with the backpack over his shoulder. And
was it Mark Ruffalo?
Stuff like that.
No, what's his name again?
Who plays it now? No. Back then it was the actual Hulk himself was guy. Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, Lou Ferrigno. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, who's deaf? So they always had to now I think he has something to be able to hear slightly, but back then the way they had to direct him is they literally they show him and give him in writing what he had to do.
Okay.
But when they had to change something or something was going bad, the rumor was, people got hurt and stuff during some things because he couldn't respond to some of the cues.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, he's still, he looked like the Hulk.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about the Hulk is he's like one of the only superheroes that rather than becoming like improved in every way, when he turns into him, he actually he loses an IQ. He goes from being a nuclear scientist to being one that would pronounce it nuclear.
Yeah.
He's
exactly.
It's pretty good, but I don't know. I like the Hulk as well. Actually, those set of movies have been awesome. Speaking of which, you know what is coming out as one of the new series too is She Hulk.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you ever read those comics?
No, I think I did get a casual glance of it either in the comics with the Avengers. She pops
Did you?
up.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it was made more appropriate, She-Hulk at one point in time was not an appropriate comic.
Okay.
And so I wasn't allowed to see it back in the day, but yeah, this one's gonna be pretty good because number one, you have Mark Ruffalo's in it.
Okay.
That guides her throughout and stuff. But she's as she was in the comics, she's a lawyer.
All right. Yeah.
So when you think about, there's a lot of lawyers actually who are also superheroes that are in Marvel.
Yep.
And they all play a part inside of this series.
Yeah.
And they're played by the people that have played them also recently. So there's going to be a lot of cameo stuff. There's going to be a lot of kind of 80s-ish things that go on and stuff. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a pretty good series. There are, you can see clips already.
All right.
But yeah.
But She-Hulk was the whole deal that she transformed but stayed sane, kind of, right? Also.
Yeah, she's intelligent when she becomes
yeah, but just Hulk, green and buff.
Yeah, and then back in the old days there was some she definitely suffered from the misogynistic stuff that went on around that time.
All right, yeah.
And so I don't know if they'll play into that at all.
Maybe with a wink or something.
Yeah, a woman trying to, that's in the legal field too, that's just trying to, maybe they'll try and combat that. But that was part of what became her purpose too, was trying to combat some of that. But there's going to be a lot of positive things to that. Yeah, you got She-Hulk. You got speaking of that Iron Man, the Doctor Strange movie, we have also got Tom Cruise is supposedly going to be Iron Man.
Really?
Yeah. A variant of Iron Man.
Okay. The Impossible Iron Man.
That's right. You got the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special coming out.
Oh
wow. Miss Marvel, which is more of a teen flick,
kind of the Smallville of Marvel, I guess. Then,
yeah, she's like she gets some of the powers, and at the same time, it's really about how I think it's almost like the Turning Red situation. It's like how the awkwardness of adolescence and becoming something. And having dreams that people just seem to, get in the way of. It's a very teenage angst kind of movie. But at the same time, all sorts of good things are coming out. Hope to be able to talk again about Inside the Future. Well, we burned through yet another episode.
Yep.
Pretty good times. And it's been good being with you this month.
Thanks.
I appreciate you joining us. I've got India Bernardo joining us this upcoming month. And talking about some Sony stuff and animation and video games and things as well. And then hoping to have Vince back on pretty soon too.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want more, well, stay tuned for that. But also check out our channel and join our community on YouTube that goes by the same name, Your Geek Fix. Also check out our friend Vince on Twitter at
@MassiveDMG_.
Also, check out his old channel, Massive DMG on YouTube. We'd love for you to be part of this podcast as well, so please send in your questions and stories to yourgeekfix @gmail.com. In the meantime, this has been your Geek Fix.